in honor of Women History Month, like Alana said. We wanted to bring together the women leaders of the construction and automotive niche to discuss their career journeys, challenges they may have faced, and any advice they would give their younger self and the women on these call. As Alana said, I'm Sherry Good. I am a lead consultant in the Withum Digital Advisory practice. And I also, before I came to Withum, used to work at a medium general contractor here in the DC area. So I was in the construction field for quite some time. And I will be moderating the discussion today. And again, this is a very informal panel, so please feel free to interject and ask any questions at any time. And I also want to welcome today's panelists, Diane McNutley, Adrienne Schaefer, Christine Andrews, and Jen Molin. So thank you, ladies, so much for your time today. So to start things off, let's have the panelists introduce themselves and touch on their career journeys. I'm going to start with you, Diane.
So hello, everybody. As Sherry said, I'm Diane McNulty. I am a partner here in our Red Bank office. I joined Withum in 1993, so I'm going to date myself a little bit. I officially work in accounting and auditing, but I know enough about taxes to be dangerous, which is probably a good thing because most of my clients are closely held businesses. So at the end of the day, they really care about how taxes impact them more so in a lot of ways than their financial reporting. So I'm part of the construction niche. I'm a partner in that group. And it's funny, I didn't actually join the construction niche until about 10 years ago. And what's really funny about it, it wasn't something I sought out. I was asked to help on a mechanical contractor. And when I was in college and I had, my accounting classes, percentage of completion was like Greek to me. As an accountant, everything has to be orderly, right? And have, like 1 + 1 = 2. Well, the thought of trying to estimate cost of completion and not having a concrete number, I couldn't deal with it. And I was like, who does this? And I was like, this is not for me. Thank God I'm going into public accounting. I'll never have to deal with this. And I thought I was done until our team leader, Lou, asked me to help on a mechanical contractor, like I said. And I was like, well, all right, I guess I'm going to finally figure this out. And at that point, fake it till you make it. And look at last year. And there I was working in construction accounting. And now I'm one of the team leaders. So that's me.
Great, Diane. Thank you so much for sharing. Adrienne, you want to tell us about your experience?
Sure. So I graduated college in 1999, and I answered a Monster.com ad for a very small firm. It was called McGuigan and Company at the time. They're about 20 minutes from my house, and I thought, oh, this will work out great. It's public accounting. I think I want to do public accounting. I want to take the CPA exam. I wasn't sure at the time. And they hired me kind of on the spot, which was really great for my ego. And then I learned that most of their clients were construction clients. And I do not remember learning about percentage of completion in college, Diane, but it was completely Greek to me as well. The first couple job schedules I looked at, it took a long time for them to finally make some kind of sense. I ended up staying with McGuigan and Company. We added a partner. We became McGuigan and Toombs, and then in 2016, we were purchased by withumsmith+brown. And here we are in a much larger construction niche now. But over time, I became really, really excited about construction accounting. I enjoy getting a WIP schedule, a job schedule, and putting it together, or helping a client putting it together. And I've been doing this now for over 20 years. And now I have more people that like what I do, which is great. Especially my neighbor right next door, who's in the office right next door to me today. It's been an exciting journey. And I will say that my favorite part about contractors is how diverse they are. I mean, we've seen a lot of different cultures. We have a lot of Irish contractors. We have a couple Greek contractors, a couple Indian contractors. Like, there's a lot of culture diversity, and that's been something that I have truly enjoyed learning about these different cultures over the last 20 years.
That's amazing, Adrienne. Yes, when I worked in construction, the thing that took me back was just how relaxed they are, and just how you have to get used to their language, and it's not always proper, as we should say. So that was fun. So, Christine, what about your story?
Okay, so I started my journey in actually working for a dealership. So I was still in college, and my brother's friend had a father who needed somebody to work that summer in the body shop as a secretary. And I lied and said I could type, which I couldn't type. And when I started working there, the owner had noticed that I was like very, that I really wanted to learn more and more. And it was a Mercedes-Benz dealership. So I was really excited. I was driving the cars from the body shop up to the showroom. And I would, talk to a lot of people, say, hey, how can I move up into this building? And lo and behold, I ended up moving up into the main showroom and worked in every capacity pretty much at the dealership. I did F&I. I did sales, I worked in the service department, I didn't work in the parts department. And then I ended up in the accounting office and I became the controller. And right at the same time I was giving birth to my daughter, literally the same exact day was the date that they sold the dealership and they closed. And the new owners didn't want to pay the salary that I was making. They already had somebody working for them. So for the first time in my life, I became unemployed. So I decided to take a year and a half off, and then I was contacted. Actually, I wasn't contacted. I saw an ad in the paper that the Mirnoff Group was looking for an automotive office manager to do some consulting work. And I thought, wow, that sounded really interesting. It's something that I could do part-time. So I ended up answering the ad, and George Berry said, this is not going to be for you. You're not going to want to drive all over the place. I know you're going to want to just drive, work, 9 to 5. And I said, you know what, I want to give this a shot, and I won't mind driving. I just want to get the heck out of the house. You know what I mean? After working my whole life and then being with a young child, I was anxious to see some adults. So I did it a few days a week. And as the years went on, I became full time. And it's been one of the best decisions that I've ever made. Not only am I working, with the dealerships, but what's really exciting is our partners that haven't worked in the dealership don't always know all of the intricacies of what goes on in the dealership, and they rely very heavily on us consultants to explain some of the things that they might not understand. So it was a great transition for me.
Wow, Christine, that's very interesting. And Jen, let's hear about your story.
Hi, I'm Jen. I'm also out of the East Brunswick office. I work with Chris in the automotive consulting. I kind of have a backwards story joining Withum. I started working in a car dealership when I was 18, fresh out of high school. The only reason they hired me, I'm sure, is because when they asked how much money I wanted, I said minimum wage. I don't know, I was a dumb kid and I needed a job. So I did anything and everything that they could throw at me, photocopying, data entry, filing. Little by little, I'm learning more things in all the departments. I'm helping the parts manager with stock orders. I'm helping the service department, submitting warranty claims, doing everything you can think of. Little by little, I had an office manager who liked to read the newspaper and was thrilled to know that I was going to school and I had classes in accounting. It wasn't my major. I was more interested in marketing. But he said, oh, you're learning about bank reconciliations. Do you want to do a real bank rec? Here, do this. Here, you want to look at a real financial statement? Here, look at this and tell me about this, tell me about that. So I learned from this office manager, partly because he wanted to teach me, but I think mainly because he wanted to sit and read the newspaper and talk to his cronies on the phone all day. But it was a wonderful opportunity for me to learn everything I possibly could. So I did it all. And when he was finally had enough, because he hated the car business, he left and I got his job. I was 23 years old. I then bounced around to a few different places, growing and growing and growing into larger and larger dealerships, opening some dealerships, closing some dealerships, seeing all kinds of different things, giving me a great experience over the overall dealership environment. So when I found myself looking for work this year, and I saw an ad pop up on LinkedIn for Withum, looking for a controller, just like your position, Chris, looking for a controller to do a little consulting. I said, oh my God, because I know all the people who work in automotive there already, because I've worked with you for 20 years. So it's been a fantastic opportunity. I just joined a month ago. And I've been playing with my college education ever since I was 18 years old. I've been off and on, off and on. And I've recently decided while I was unemployed to go back to school again, online university, taking more classes, and I want to get my accounting degree. And now coming to work for Withum has really motivated me to want to not only get my accounting degree, I want to get the CPA. So I'm very excited to be here and be around all of these accounting personnel who can teach me and encourage me to do a lot more. And I can bring something to the table too with my experience in how a dealership runs, like Chris was saying. So I'm really happy to be here. It's been a fun ride.
And we're happy to have you, Jen. So ladies, thank you so much for sharing your story. I want to shift gears a little bit. Can you discuss any challenges you have faced working in a male-dominated industry, especially construction and automotive, and how did you overcome them? We're going to start again with you, Diane.
So construction is historically definitely been very male dominated, although it's getting a much bigger female presence in the industry as a whole. But historically, yeah, very male dominated, and it's difficult to walk in as a woman into a company that has historically been all males. And if you think about it from their perspective, it must be difficult to be in a male-oriented environment and now all of a sudden have to interact with and work with women. So I think the way I've looked at things is that, for as difficult or challenging as it is for us, in many instances, it's that way for them as well. So, I kind of look for ways to make everybody feel more at ease. And the other thing I noticed about construction individuals, for instance, is that many of the people that I interact with, the company president, he's probably out in the field working as well. And sometimes it's hard to make that switch for them from, field supervisor and working with all the guys and getting dirty, and then coming into the office and needing to all of a sudden switch on his inner executive. So, it's difficult to navigate that switch. So some of the things I've tried to do is try to make an atmosphere of kind of comfort for each of us. So one thing that I can say is really been helpful is just as a woman to be confident. I mean, I think you can't be wishy-washy. Okay. You need to go in there with a confidence that you're a skilled professional, their industry, and that you're looking to gain their respect from that knowledge and that confidence. So when I interact with them, you need to look at them, listen, and speak confidently. Don't be meek. Don't be wishy-washy. Be concise and be confident, as you talk to them. And I wrote some of this stuff down, so you hear me shifting pages here. Now I talked about, and Sherry also, touched on it about some of the ways they communicate, and, it may be a little tough. It might not be office corporate type language. They could be a little abrasive. They could get to the point. And that being said, I learned you can't be sensitive or overly sensitive. Now that doesn't mean to allow yourself to be completely disrespected or bullied, but it means you can't be too sensitive. And some of these guys aren't, or these, I shouldn't say these guys, these owners, these men, they might not be as like your idea of being friendly, and they might not want to sit there and talk about your dog or, any of your personal stuff. They might be more interested in getting to the point. And so I think reading them and understanding that, will do away with some of the, maybe the frustrations that each of us share. And, just don't be insulted or take things personally, I think is another huge thing. The other thing I learned is try to bond with them on some level. So to the extent that I could be conversational, shall we say, about, things that they may like sports, or certainly I've learned they like a lot of fishing. They may like hunting. They may like the outdoors, camping. I tried to learn to be conversational and interested in hearing about that, and at least be able to interject a little bit. So there's perhaps something that, we can bond over and start to develop a relationship. And the other thing I noticed about them that's been helpful is that they're really great at building, and they're really good at their craft. Sometimes they're not always as great with the numbers, and it may frustrate them. So sometimes I've tried not to be super technical. not to try to overwhelm them with technical information, and just get to the point and try to speak to them in ways that helps them understand, so that they know I'm on their side. I'm trying to help them. I'm trying to make them understand. So again, I think all of these things come back to trying to just develop a comfortable relationship where they can get comfortable with me and I can get comfortable, with them. So.
Thanks, Diane. That's great. Just to piggyback on what you're saying, when I was in the industry, I felt like my superintendents became all like dads to us, because I started in my 20s. So eventually they were all just always looking out, and it just turned into big teddy bears once you
Yeah.
built that relationship with them. So
I would agree. They are construction people. I have found are like the salt of the earth. They're good, hardworking people. They're usually not like like some of the corporate people, like the big blue suits where, it's like, what have you done for me lately? Once you develop that relationship, there's a loyalty that comes along with them, and they really take care of their own. So I actually really do enjoy working with them.
yeah, exactly. So Adrian, you want to tell us about your challenges you faced?
Sure. So I'll try to be brief, but I kind of grew up in a white collar family. So most everybody, a lot of my family are engineers, not in the construction field. So when I first got involved in construction, having to really change my mindset to more of a blue collar kind of team was kind of eye opening for me. And it actually was enjoyable. But to piggyback off what Diane said, I mean, the two biggest things to me are confidence. There are a lot of times that contractors would skip over me and go right to my boss, who was a male, without, even considering what I had to say. If I said something, they would look to my boss to, to kind of, oh, well, do you think this too, kind of thing. But as soon as I developed some real confidence in my abilities, that changed really fast. And I learned that it really didn't have much to do with the fact that I was a woman. It was all about confidence. And these guys, these construction contractors, especially the smaller guys, they want things to be simple. They keep everything in their heads. Everything comes down to cash. How much cash do I have? I.e., how much tax do I have to pay? And let's make that as small as possible. That's a common conversation, but I try to use the KISS method of keep it simple, stupid. I know it sounds stupid, but it really works. If you can really sit down and turn off your accounting brain and really think about a contractor, like what really matters to them in the long run, it makes it much easier to have conversations with them, maybe about things that are a little too complicated. Like, I'm not going to go in there and say, okay, we're going to take Section 179 depreciation on this new tractor that you bought. And they're going to be like, I don't know what that means. So it's kind of like, well, we're going to take 100% write-off on the overall value of the asset that you purchased. It's much easier for them to understand. And then what does that mean for me from a tax standpoint? So again, confidence and keep it simple.
Great advice. Christine, what do you have for us?
Well, I'll start a little bit on the dealership level before I came on. A woman in a dealership is very difficult. Primarily, where we've got the jobs in the office. So trying to break that barrier. And when I did finance or F&I, it was fortunately the woman who had done it before me was also a female, but I had to gain the respect of the salespeople first. And what I can remember, and it's not that long ago, like 25 years ago, there weren't any women on the showroom floor. There was one woman who finally came to work as a salesperson, and she wore pants every day. She didn't wear a dress because she wanted to blend in with the men, which I thought was ridiculous, right? So it's interesting because working in the dealership and having the opportunity to have worked in all of the different areas, like Jen said as well, in the service department, the parts department, and the body shop, doing the finance, sales, and then again the accounting, and gaining all that knowledge really gave me the opportunity to become an expert. And like both of you had said ahead of me, is that both Diane and Adrian, is that it's really important to be confident. And when you know what you're talking about, then you can command the room. Otherwise, the dealer principal or the general manager is going to eat you alive. And that transition going over into Withum. And that's where, you know, our position here at Withum has become so helpful, because we become that middle person between the partners and the tax preparers who, you know, do have very important messages to give, but don't speak dealership language. And so you're speaking to a male, you know, as a female going in there, and if you're not knowledgeable, they're gonna chew you up and spit you out, and they're gonna throw you right out of the dealership. And again, you have that environment where, you know, the language isn't always the best. You know, it's a man's club. It definitely is in the management part of it, and the women are expected to. We're not earning income, or we're not bringing anything to the bottom line as women. And then as a consultant coming in, you know, we're going in and almost identifying their weaknesses. So you have to be very careful on how you present those weaknesses to them. And fortunately, you know, as you get to know each one of your dealers and each one of your general managers, you learn how much they can take and how you should present it to them. So it's been a really great learning experience, and they've learned to trust us and to see value in what we bring them. But again, as a woman, it was very difficult given those opportunities to learn in the areas of the dealership that were primarily those jobs that were primarily held by men. So, but once you do it, you're set apart, because when you as a woman go into the dealership and are really knowledgeable, it means so much more actually, because they don't believe how much you actually really know. So it's pretty interesting.
All valid points. So thank you so much, Christine. So we'll wrap it up with Jen.
Well, so much has already been covered. We've all walked in the same shoes, I think, as far as trying to relate to a entirely different mentality that most men, like most women, have different ways of thinking and approaching things. And one thing I figured out early on in relating as a controller and office manager in the dealership is dealing with the other managers who were always men. And one thing that impressed me about how they react, and again, I'm using broad strokes here to paint this. This isn't fair to narrow down to everyone, but men have this amazing ability, to me anyway, to have a heated discussion, an argument. They might use very colorful language. They will get into it. Half an hour later, they go out to lunch, clapping each other on the back, have a great time. Come back, have another meeting at 3 o'clock, and they're back at it again, barking. They don't take it personal. They don't internalize. They don't think anything of it than it's work. And it's partly because I think women think about that differently, and partly because when I made this realization, I was a young woman who certainly does tend to internalize more things. Once I realized that it's not personal, and you don't want to be nasty in any case, but this is business and this is how we convey each other. And men do use the colorful language and the stronger voice than a woman might use. But it doesn't mean that they're angry at me or that there's any long-term problem here. And once I got past that and just narrowed in on the problem itself, it became much easier to deal with it and more enjoyable. They definitely have a different way of handling things. And as everyone has, the one common theme is to be confident, know what you're talking about, and don't be shy to speak up.
That is all excellent news. Again, just to segue and my takeaways here. So confidence, respect, building that relationship, you know, coming down to their level. But at the end of the day, it's business is business. And I learned that probably this year, you know, just having different conversations and not necessarily, even though I'm in the IT sector of Withum, but, you know, my male counterpoints, you know, they talk similarly to, you know, the construction and automotive. And you have to just always remember that this is always just a business conversation. It's nothing personal. And once I kept stamping that in my head, my conversations have been much better with my superiors. So the great stories, ladies, and I thank you guys for all your knowledge. So the last topic that I wanted to bring up is, what advice would you give your younger self or the women on this call, just taking this all in? Like, if you could go back and do it all over again, or take a time machine back in the past, what would you say? And we'll start off with Diane again.
Oh my goodness. So I think the common theme here is just, I would tell my younger self, be confident. Um, know your industry, know your customer. Um, Christine made the comment about being an expert, gain knowledge. If you can do those things, you'll be successful with any person or in any industry that you're working with. It just makes you appear very professional, and it just gains respect. So to my younger self, I would encourage them to listen, to talk to people. Just conversation, go to trade shows, read trade publications, anything, within, the niche that you're working in, to gain a better understanding of it, and just talk to people about their perspectives and what they do, and really be excited to understand how'd you do that, or how does that get built, for instance, in construction, or how would you repair that body damage after the accident. But just be inquisitive and go gain knowledge, and that's power, and it just builds your respect, your own self-confidence, and commands respect from the people that you're interacting with, male or female.
Awesome, Diane. Adrian, how about yourself?
Don't stress so much about the little things.
Yes.
um, that's something that I've been trying to teach myself for a long time now. But man, if I could go back and do it all again, that's, Jen kind of sparked that whole, don't take anything personally, especially in the industries that we're in that are male dominated. Just freaking don't stress so much about the little things, because at the end of the day, we're all here to live a life, and that's what these clients are doing too. Even the people that we work with that might be that are male as opposed to female. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all here to live life. So I would definitely say don't stress so much. And then also, again, the confidence thing comes up. That was that's something that took me a long time to learn as a young staff person. And I did have people telling me all the time that I need to be more confident in my abilities, and that, what, Adrian, you're actually pretty smart. You're a pretty smart person, and you know a lot, and just be confident in that. And you'll go a long way. And once I've realized that, they were right. I just wish I'd listened sooner. So definitely also seek out mentors, seek out female mentors in the industry niche that you're in. I was in a small firm where, it was run by men, and yes, they were amazing mentors. I don't want to put that aside at all, but there's a lot more women in construction now. And I love that there are actually professional women in construction groups out there, and they do actually promote, not just on the accounting side, but in construction in general, and they provide a tremendous amount of support for each other. So that's another piece of advice that I would give myself is, find other people that are like you, that you can, hook up with, and just really learn together and lean on each other.
That's amazing. Christine, what about you?
So I think, and Diane had touched on this. I think what I think I had done right, the one thing I'd really done right was I was always very curious. When something didn't look right to me, instead of just accepting the way somebody did something, I always wanted to know why or how, or look into something. And oftentimes you found out that there were different ways to do something or better ways to do that, and you could communicate that. So I think the one thing that I would tell myself if I hadn't done that was to be curious. So that was one good thing. However, the one thing is we can't be afraid to fail too. Like, I tend to be very afraid of making a mistake. And I think they said fail is like first attempts in learning or something like that. So, we have to expect that we are going to make mistakes, and nobody's going to crucify us. It's going to happen every now and then. Shouldn't be afraid to take on challenges for things we don't know, and also learn to balance. I mean, sometimes we throw ourselves into the job so much. It's important to take lunch and to sit together with your colleagues and read those periodicals, go home in the evening, know how to balance education, work, clients, relationships, all of those things. Again, because I think that's what I would tell my younger self as well. I tend to have wanted to work around the clock and not enjoy actually what I was doing until I came to Withum. And what I really find that the work balance is a lot better for me. I'm not in tax. Sorry, you guys. I don't do tax season, so I can say that.
Great advice. Great advice. Jen, what about you?
I think I've been very lucky and had some great work ethic built into me from my childhood, and it's really gotten me far. But the one thing I would change about myself when I first got going would to not be so shy. When I finally got invited to the big conference room to sit in on a meeting, I was afraid to open my mouth, even if I had a good point to raise or a good question to ask. I didn't want to do something stupid, so I never got invited back in to sit with the big guys at the big table again. Now I have that confidence that we were all speaking of before. And while we have to mix etiquette, sometimes it's not the time or place to say what's on our mind. Sometimes it is the right forum, and we need to make ourselves be known. And that's how we get recognized as being those knowledgeable people who see things that maybe other people don't see. We can provide some insight, and that's what we're here to do. So speak up, be brave.
Way to wrap this up. So thank you, ladies, again for your time today. At this point, I'll open the discussion to the rest of the group, all the ladies on the call. Does anyone have any questions? You guys must have done a really, really good job. Okay, well, if no one has any questions, I'll turn it over to Alana to wrap us up.
Yeah. Well, thank you to all the panelists. This was really fun and great for me, especially, and I'm sure the rest of the group. I will end the recording. Let me do that. I know everyone's really busy, so I will